Welcome to Arnie's Class Podcast. I'm Arnie Aniel. I'm an HR development consultant, an international public speaker, a workshop facilitator, a coach, and an educator. Life is a great opportunity, and we all learn life lessons every day. This podcast is all about those lessons. Lessons like gratitude, confidence, happiness, mindset, and a lot more. Learning without action is information. Learning with action is transformation. Join me, learn, and transform yourself into a better you. Draymond Green said, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And that's why personal development is very important. So what is personal development? Personal development are the activities that you do in order to improve yourself in different areas of your life. You improve your health, your body, your intelligence. You're doing things like reading books, talking to people with experience, or even getting a coach, a mentor in order for you to develop yourself and getting yourself close to achieve what you want in life. But personal development doesn't happen only one time, or it only happens in one stage of our life. It actually encompasses over the course of our entire lifespan. We continue to grow, we continue to improve, we never stop. How about you? What activities do you do to develop yourself? Do you read books? Do you attend seminars? Do you listen to people who have the experiences and the success that you want? In this episode, I'm going to talk about personal development with my special guests. So, life mates, listen and learn. My special guest for this episode is a top-tier business consultant, mindset coach, and a former Fortune 500 executive with more than 2 decades of experience in marketing and business. Her consulting business centers around innovation, customer centricity, and building businesses that maximizes its value and impact. She is the author of the book of 1 to Millions Entrepreneur and host of the 1 to Millions Entrepreneur podcasts. She has Bachelor and Master Degrees in Business and Marketing and currently doing her PhD in Social Psychology. She is a regular contributor to Forbes Entrepreneur and Brainz magazines. Aside from that, she has been featured on Business Insider, Fox, ABC, CNBC, US Today, and other media. Please welcome my special guest for this episode, Miss Nida Leardprasopsuk. Hello, welcome Nida to Arnie's Class.
Hi, Arnie.
Hi, thank you so much for saying yes to my invitation.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my honor. And tonight I want to talk about personal development. What is your personal take on that, Nida?
What do you mean? Like what do I feel about personal development, or what?
Why do you think? Maybe I should ask the question: why do you think personal development is very important, especially nowadays?
Yeah. Well, I think back in the old days, like people were just trying to survive, right, and make a living. And now the world has evolved. And now we know that, you work in HR. I work with leaders. I work with CEOs and people. That's where we're both passionate about, like helping people achieve their fullest potential. Just being intelligent or being good at what you do is just not enough nowadays, because it's more competitive, whether you're a business owner, whether you work for a company, whether you're an executive or whatever, right? It's just like the world is so much more competitive. Like my son is 13 now, and he's already working on his profile to get into like Ivy League universities.
Oh, wow.
And the things that kids do these days are like, I remember when I was 13, I was like,
totally different.
Sure. Yeah. I didn't even know the things that he knows today. Right. So definitely the world has evolved and people are evolving, and, you know, mindset development is just so important. And even above the level of mindset is identity. Like, how do you perceive yourself? What is your self-perception? Because that will lead to the actions that you take and the outcome that you get in life.
That's right.
And, you know, it's just so true that like maybe good is not enough anymore, but you have to be great if you want to stand out, if you want to get the results that you want in life. And I'm just someone that believes in like, yeah, if you're whatever you have in your life, if you're happy, then that's fine. But don't settle, you know, like a lot of people settle and they think that they don't have control over their life and the outcomes in their life. But it's not true, right? We know that it's not true in this world, in our world of personal development and coaching and psychology. And so through my own personal journey of like, you know, seeing the transformation in myself from like 20 years ago when I was 20 and today, now I'm like 41, it was like, I can't remember my old self, you know, and that's something common that everybody like that has gone through the journey would say, like, I don't really remember my old self. Like, who was I that in the past? And for me, I'm very passionate about this because I've gone through the journey and I've helped lots of people go through the journey. And I want this for everyone, you know, like everyone needs to understand this. And although we have a lot of personal development books and like all the books that you could ever read in the world, I think that by reading a book, yes, sometimes you get lots of things from reading a book, but sometimes you don't get that level of awareness that you get when you're actually working with a coach or a mentor or someone, a teacher or whatever that can actually help you and be like a mirror to reflect your blind spots that you don't see in yourself. Yeah. And you could read hundreds of books. You can never realize that blind spot. It's possible to not ever realize it because we have the ego, and the ego is kind of like preventing us from seeing the truth because we don't want to feel bad about ourselves, right? So that's like the inner work it's so important, and I want everybody to awaken to the truth, to see that potential for themselves. And yeah, that's I guess because of the journey that I've been through, and the power of coaching and personal development and psychology. I think this knowledge and the understanding of all this is just so important. But it's a little bit sad that not everybody knows about this, right? Or they know about it, but at a very not at a deep level, you know. So that's my take around like personal development. And then it's a totally different issue. We talk about personal development in Thailand. That's a different issue. Yeah,
I totally agree. Agree. But Nida, of course, there are different channels or different platforms that we can use in order to develop ourselves. If you're going to select, at least you already mentioned, of course, reading books or hiring a coach or a mentor or someone, at least a teacher to help you. If you're going to mention at least 3, which one do you recommend for people to use in order to develop themselves?
Well, number 1, of course, I would say coaching for sure. Because that's like, for me, that was the biggest, I think when you hire a coach, you have that commitment.
Okay.
To transform, right? When you're reading a book, you can be passive. You can be a passive learner. You're just like reading. You don't even have to do anything. You don't have to do the inner work. You don't have to accept any truth about yourself. But if you're working with a really high caliber, like a really good, like a really great coach that has like really great skills, and also has done their inner work, is super important because, you know, we've seen examples of coaches that call themselves coaches, but they haven't done the inner work. They start projecting on the clients, right? That's like I don't really want to see that happening in the coaching space. But if you do get to work with a coach that really knows what they're doing, they can really help you reflect on what's holding you back, what's keeping you where you are. And you get to learn a lot about yourself. You get to reflect, you get to grow. It is uncomfortable. Like, a lot of people think like working with a coach is like getting a cheerleader, which couldn't be
Yeah,
further
it can
from the
be.
truth.
Yes.
It's like you're facing your demons actually when you're working with a coach. And if it's almost like going to the fitness, like if you don't feel like, when you go to fitness, if you're coming back home and you feel like your arm doesn't hurt, it means you didn't really do the proper exercise, right? So in order to build your muscles, it has to hurt. And I think it's the same thing like psychologically with coaching. When you're working with a coach, it's like you're facing your demons, you're facing the truth, your dark, blind spots that you didn't want to accept about yourself. But that's like the key to moving forward. And for me, I think a coach or a mentor or, whatever you want to call, I know like we in the coaching space, we know the difference, right?
Of course.
But for a lot of people, they have maybe both, or some coaches actually, they don't do just pure coaching, but they mentor, they consult as well. So I think like number one for sure is getting a coach, like a really, really good coach.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that? Because you said
Yeah.
to get a really, really good coach.
Yeah.
How do you define someone who's really a good coach?
Yeah. I get asked a lot of that question. And I think I wrote several blog posts and articles about it as well. But I think a good coach is someone that has done their inner work. Like they have gone through the journey. They have done the inner work. Otherwise, if you haven't done the inner work, then you start to project on your clients, you start to have your own issues, so that's not great at all for any helping profession. You know what I mean? Like whether you're a counselor, whether you're a, like psychologist, like you have to have done the self-work already. And it's an ongoing journey.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you, Nida. So someone who has been to that, I'm not saying the same journey, but their own journey. So when they talk to you, they can really give you insights and ask you questions that can really help you understand more about yourself and your own journey. Is that what you mean?
No, what I mean is actually that they have done their inner work. Like everybody has their blind spots. Yeah. Yes. And if you don't work on those things, then you will project them onto your clients. You will get triggered in the sessions, for example, if you didn't, take care of your own issues. So, and I've seen that happen to many coaches or trainers or like, right, where, you could be teaching in front of a class and then a student starts to challenge you and then you get triggered, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen something like that happen?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So that means you actually, you're proof that you haven't done your inner work. You're proving that you haven't done the inner work. So that is something that I would look for in a, when I say like a really great coach, is someone that has done the inner work. That you will see that through how they show up. They will show up with confidence, with true self-esteem. They will have vulnerability. They will be comfortable to be vulnerable, to not know, to not like, you know what I mean? Like to be vulnerable, not to have to be perfect or like, I know it all. So those are all signs of like true self-esteem. And secondly is they have to have mastered the skills of like coaching or, the different modalities that they have been trained in, and be able to use those skills with the clients in an ethical way. And I know it's hard to like, if you've never hired a coach or you don't even know what ethical means in this context, then like as a client, I know it would be really challenging because I know lots of, CEOs or C-suite or business owners are like, I've hired coaches, like I've hired like 3 coaches. It didn't work. None of them worked. Like I didn't like them. I didn't like the relationship. Yeah. because sadly, I think it's like the same with every industry. There are a lot of people that haven't been well trained. They haven't done the inner work. They don't know what they're doing. So like, that's not just for the coaching space. It's for every industry, right?
Yeah,
It's
I
just,
totally agree, because I've also
yeah,
met and known people
yeah,
who are, I think it's just like what you said, they are
yeah,
triggered. Once someone like maybe asks or
yeah,
challenge them, they
yeah,
themselves become like, oh, they are trapped. And they themselves like, what's happening here? It's like it dawns on them that how come I feel like I'm the victim here, or there, I don't know where am I now. So I totally agree with what you said.
yeah, yeah. So I would say like, if you're not someone that has hired a bunch of coaches or hasn't been in this space long enough to be able to differentiate whether like this person is like good at what they do or like have they done the inner work, I think like something that you could just really notice when you're speaking to someone is like, are they comfortable in their own skin? You know, do they sit there like they like proud and comfortable to be who they are and not have to be like, you know, like it's just the opposite of people that have a big ego and like need to prove to their clients that, hey, I know everything, I'm the guru here, you know, like that's the opposite of what you want to look for. But like sadly, a lot of people have this misunderstanding that if the person looks confident and they know what they're doing, they look super strong on the outside, it must mean that they are really good at what they do, which is not the truth. It isn't the truth. You know what I mean? Because there's a difference between true self-esteem and somebody trying to look confident,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think like being humble and able to be courageous and vulnerable are like really important, you know, for coaches as a coach, because coaches, we're not gurus, we're not like people
Exactly.
that go out and tell people how to live their lives. We just have these tools in our toolbox that we can use to help people, and they will have to use those tools themselves. Actually, we can just only be the guide and the mirror to reflect on like, what are you doing that's not really working here, you know? It's very important to be objective as well as a coach, like
Of
to
course.
not put those like personal inputs and judgments and, you know,
Yes, that's right.
opinions, especially if they're not helpful opinions.
Yeah,
So
I
you
can
have to
imagine.
be really neutral and objective, because you're dealing with a person's life here.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And yeah, there are many more other things, but I think
Yeah.
those are the really key factors that you want to look for if you're looking for a good
A good
coach.
coach.
And also they have to be a decent person with high integrity.
Yes.
And for me, it's like a great coach is someone that always puts their client first. And I don't mean this in a way that you lose your boundaries and, you know, not in that way, but like you're not in the coaching session to prove anything for yourself as a coach. You're just here to help the client learn
Totally
something
agree.
about themselves. Yeah.
So that's number one, Nida. Hire a coach or a mentor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's the next one in order for people to develop themselves?
Well, for me, it's reading books. Yeah. I read a lot of books. Nowadays I listen to them. I don't buy them anymore because I don't have the bookshelves to keep them anymore. There's just so many.
Okay.
And
So
I
you're into audiobooks right now.
yeah. I just consume so many. So that digital is the way to go for me.
Okay.
And, you know, I think it's just such a smart way to gain all this knowledge and experience. Cause like, you know, books are written from like decades and decades of
Of
experience
course.
that the
Yes.
author had. So if like you read 100 books, that's like thousands of years,
That's
right?
right. Yes.
You you learn a lot from books. You don't have to go and repeat the same mistakes. You can just learn from somebody else's mistake. But the important thing is just not about like reading the books, but you have to read the book and you have to introspect and you have to reflect and you have to put it into action. You can't just read it and like, oh, like I've evolved from reading this book. You can't. There's no shortcut. You actually have to take what you got from the book, and put it into action, actually use it and reflect and learn about yourself.
Any
And
recommendation, Nida? Any books that you can really recommend in terms of?
I can't really say because there's so many, Arnie. There's like hundreds of books. I can't really say like any book specifically that I like, oh, these are like the top threes.
I see.
I really struggle with that question. Like when people are like, your top three, top five. I don't know. Like there's so
maybe I will change the question into what's your favorite book? The one that
I
you
can't answer
always...
that either. Because there's so many. Yeah, there's so many. I can't like say
Maybe you can mention your own book. I know you wrote your own book, Nida.
Yeah. I have I have an English book on Amazon. It's called One to Millions Entrepreneur. That's a marketing book for like coaches, consultant, experts that want to you want to create a business that's like in the high end market. You want to charge premium price. You want to charge what you're worth, and you want to build a business that leads the market, doesn't follow the market, but leads the market. And you challenge industry norms. You want to challenge what people are doing in that industry, and you want to disrupt it, and you want to create something that's much, much better, something extraordinary. So that's the book for someone that is like, someone like me, actually, someone like me that's like, I'm so sick of what people are doing in the industry. And like, they're taking advantage of clients, like people that only care about making money, and like, they don't have ethics. They don't want to do better. For me, it's like, if you serve your clients at the highest level, that's integrity. If you want to do whatever it takes to deliver on the promise that you gave to the client, then the money will follow. Like,
very well said. Very well said. Yes, of course.
But if you start with like, oh, I just want to do this for the money, it never really works. That's what I believe. Like, you will be successful like for a few years, and you'll start to see problems creeping up in the business.
I have the same principle. I always tell people that don't focus on the money. Money will follow if you always give your best.
Yeah. Because you're solving an important problem. If you're solving an important problem, people will want your services, right?
That's right.
So that's what that book is about. One to Millions Entrepreneur is about one person, each of us, making an impact on millions of people. Even though if you say like, I have lots of clients, but I work with only 10 clients, but your 10 clients actually are impacting like, tens of thousands of other people. And then those people impact the people around them. So you are actually impacting a lot more people than you think you are. Yeah, so that's that book. And then I have 2 Thai books. So the first one is called Shine From Within. It's a book about self-esteem and how self-esteem, the level of your self-esteem has like this direct correlation with the results that you get in your life, whether it's career, relationship, wealth, health, everything. And then I have a second book in Thai coming out called Reinventing You, Redesigning Life. It's a pure self-development book. It's about reinventing you and really, knowing what you want in life and not settling and not compromising and just like going for it, knowing that you can have it all if you're willing to do it. If you're willing to give it your all, you can get everything you want in life. Yeah. So that's
Nida, there you go. You were able to answer your top 3 books.
Well, I wouldn't say that my 3 books were the best. No, I think there are a lot of people that are so great at what they do.
Yeah, I know, but each book, whatever it is, it always, when you read a book, you always get something.
Yeah.
It's impossible that you read a book and you don't get anything at all. So now you have
even if you read a bad book, like a really bad book, you'll like realize this is not how I want to write a book. Right?
Exactly. You still learn something out of reading that bad book.
Yeah, definitely. It's like they say like the wisdom comes from your failure, right?
That's
it doesn't
right.
come from your success. It comes from your failure. So everything, even like bad that has happened to you in life, is actually what makes me do what I do, because I believe like you can learn everything about psychology and all these things and the theories and go to get a PhD or whatever. But when you actually have the pain from those experiences in your own life, that's when you have the drive to actually want to go and help people with the same problem. Yeah.
That's right. So Nida, let's continue with our lists. We're on
Yeah.
the last now. So you
Yeah.
said first, of course, as already mentioned, hire a coach, a mentor, a teacher.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you said read books. And you already mentioned your books. So please check them out.
Yeah.
But the other one is coming out, right? Still
Yeah.
writing on it, working on it. So please check
Yeah.
on Amazon.
The third one, you mean? The third one in Thai? Both
Yeah.
Thai books are sold in the Thai
Ta-
bookstore. It's not
Oh,
on
I see.
Amazon.
Not on Amazon. Only the English book.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
One to Millions Entrepreneur.
entrepreneur. Yeah. Yeah.
Please check it out. So, what's the third advice for self development?
Let me think about the third one. Well, I'm totally thinking about the answers now. I didn't prepare any. I didn't even know what you were going to ask. But I think the third one is surrounding yourself with people that are really like at the level that you want to be, or at least or like they have the mindset that you want to learn from, you know, like people that have done the inner work. Because I feel like it doesn't sound like it's a direct solution for evolving yourself, but it is. It really is. It's not like, oh, I'm going to read a book to learn this or that, but you actually absorb a lot from the people around you. So we know, like Jim Rhodes said, we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, right? It's totally true.
I was about to say that, Nida, and I
Yeah.
said that in my last episode, actually.
Yeah. And so I think like being super conscious with who you hang out with and who you spend your time with and who you're in a relationship with is so important. You really have to be intentional about these things, right? And like I see too many people try to hang on to old relationships that aren't really serving you anymore. You know, like that friend from high school that talks behind your back or whatever, or isn't kind to you, that you feel like, but you know, I've known her forever. She's like my best friend. And you can't cut that relationship, you know. I feel that we have to be super intentional about everything we choose in our lives, especially relationships, right? Because it's relationships is so
100%
important. Yeah.
agree. Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes, unconsciously you're being influenced
Yeah.
and you are not aware of that. And then,
Yeah.
even the way you talk, sometimes you follow how your friends or
Yeah.
the people around you talked. And then
Yeah.
you will only know it if someone, oh, what happened to you, Nida? You sound different. The way you talk,
Yeah.
the way you think now. And then you will like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think it is actually a great answer for point number 3, because I just thought about this point where if you want to learn a specific skill or you want to be more like someone, then go and hang out around people that are like that, right? So if, for example, if you want to be more assertive, yeah, you can read like 100 books about being assertive and setting boundaries, right?
Yes.
But what better way to learn than from people, from like real life experiences? Like if you want to be more assertive, you go and hang out with people that are more assertive. You know, that's how you kind of master the skill, because we have those mirror neurons in our head that makes us copy things around with the people that are around us. And so, yeah, I think that's why I guess it's a good answer for point number 3 if you want to evolve in a specific way, go hang out with people that are like that. And you'll see when you read a book, it's like sometimes what goes through your brain, yeah, that's like good on paper. It's like the good theory, but in real life, how would you actually execute it, right? But when you hang out with people that have done it, then you see like, oh, it's not that hard. Like,
Yes.
If she could do it,
I can do it.
Yeah, I can do it. Like she stood up for herself, or she left that toxic relationship, or, she said no to something that she didn't want or something like that. Then you start to question your own beliefs and your like how you used to do things. Like, why did I do things that way when there's like a better way? And like, it's not you don't die after you say no to someone. You don't actually die. Like, something bad doesn't happen to you. It's just all in your head. Right. So I think like a lot of people, we are like programmed to hang out with people that are similar to us, right? Not people that are better than us. It's more comfortable and easier to hang out people at the same level or at a lower level than you are, because then you get to tell yourself, oh, I'm better than everybody else. Then you never get
Yes.
better. You never evolve. So it's uncomfortable to hang out with people that are at a higher level than you. It's
Yes.
uncomfortable because then you feel like I'm the less smartest person in this
Yes,
group,
yes.
or I'm the less evolved, I'm the less successful. But that's how you like eventually you get higher and higher and higher. You evolve to that level. So yeah, taking the more difficult path is the way to go if you want to, eventually be in a better place. So like, for example, if you want to be more assertive, but at the moment you're really like, you're not assertive. Like what's the opposite of assertive? You're like
People
like
who
a
are
pushover.
shy, very timid.
Yeah, like you're a pushover. People
Yeah.
push you around. Like people don't respect you, right? They treat you like they don't respect you or whatever. So you hang out with people that are the same as you, then you think what you do is actually normal because everybody is doing the same thing, Yeah. So it's very counterintuitive, but I think many key success factors in life are actually counterintuitive, even in business or everything.
Yeah, even in personal life.
Yeah.
My next question, Nida, is because I myself is in training and development for many, many years. But how come people are not into developing themselves intentionally? How come like even we have all these courses, it's open, it's free, but how come people are still like, they feel like, no, I don't need it. Well, why do you think the people have that kind of attitude towards training or developing or development, if I should say?
Yeah, I ponder a lot about this. Well, I think it's because it makes us uncomfortable. Like if you have to accept that you need to develop, then you feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me or I'm not perfect. And you need courage to accept that you're not perfect, that you still need to do the work.
That's right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And we need to develop ourselves nonstop.
Yeah, exactly. Because I run like one of the businesses I do is I run a coach training program as well. And what we see, I'm going to ask you whether you see this as well in the personal development space. It's like people will go to seminars and trainings and then they'll say like, oh, I did the self work. I'm evolved. So I reached the goal. Like what do you call when you're going on a marathon and a race and you reach the finish line?
Finish line,
Yeah,
yes.
finish line. So like, yeah, I've reached the finish line. So I'm evolved. I don't have
I'm
to
done.
do it anymore. Yeah, I'm done. And I'm like, no. What you just said is like reflecting that you need to do more work, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like never ending. So as a coach, especially it's a misperception. It's a misunderstanding that if you've gone through the coach training, then you're like evolved somehow, like you've arrived, which is not true, right? Yeah, it's a thing that you will be working on till the last day of your life. There will always be blind spots. There will always be bias. Like people that say like, I don't have bias. I don't have prejudice. I don't discriminate people. Like the first step to actually having to work towards not being a biased person is accepting first that we all have bias.
What? Oh, yes, of course. Because
right?
The others, they just keep on denying. But actually,
Yeah.
we all have biases.
Yeah.
Don't worry, not only you. That's by nature. Human beings are like that.
Yeah. I mean, you were raised by people, right? You were raised by society, right? So how could you shield yourself from all that, right? Like it's impossible. I think like when I see people that resist the change, they resist the truth. Like even after I've reflected to them as a coach, like this is what I've seen in what you've just shared with me. We're reflecting back to them, right? And then sometimes I would say people would like push back and this is like, well, that's not true. Like even if they've shown that over and over again, they'll still deny it. Like that's not true. It's like somebody else's fault. It was like my parents' fault. It was my spouse's fault or some, you know what I mean? It's like because we have an ego, right? We all have an ego. So if somebody says, I don't have an ego, again, it's not true. We all have an ego, and the ego plays its part in protecting our like how we feel about ourselves, right? And so in order to feel good about ourselves, and in order to stay alive and still live in this world, you have to protect yourself against the truth. Like that's the role of the ego. And so that's what makes you deny the truth. Like,
And
oh,
truth hurts
yeah, the
most
truth
of the
hurts.
time. The truth
Yeah.
hurts most of
It's
the
like,
time.
oh, it's actually because of me that I'm not living the life that I want. Like, I can't accept that, right? And the ego goes like, no, I'm not going to let me accept that. So I'm going to make up a bunch of excuses and blame other people for it. Like, oh,
But
it was
never
my
blame
fault.
yourself.
Yeah, yeah. And some people actually do blame themselves as well. They use blaming themselves as an excuse of not getting what they want as well. So there's like, so for me, it's just so fascinating to see all these things. It's like, it's fun for me, right? Because I get to think about all these things and analyze and like observe. And it's like, yeah, it's a weird passion to have, I guess. But yeah, that would be my answer. It's like, people don't want to feel uncomfortable. And
Yes.
especially like when you realize and you accept the truth that there is a lot of work for you to do, then like you feel, oh my God, there's so much. I have to do all of this. Isn't there a shortcut? You know? And then because it seems so hard, they go through this thing called like amnesia or something, like where you forget that, oh, you wanted to change your life. You had all these goals, and then you go back and you're like, it's so hard. I don't want to do it anymore. I can go back and accept my old life. You know, I can settle for less.
Yeah.
But
Totally
then
agree.
you can't really do that, because when you go back, you know, in a while you're like, oh, I can't stand this anymore. I can't take another day of this job. I can't take another day of this relationship. You know, like, okay, I'm going to change. I'm going to really change this time. And then you set these goals, you draw this vision board. And then, you know, it goes, you keep going through this cycle of like, I want to change, but then it's too hard. Let's go back to the old life. I want to change. And then, oh, it's too hard. Let's go back. Yeah. And then
They stay in the comfort zone.
yeah. So that goes back to point number one, why you have to have a coach, because the coach is going to keep you, they're going to help support you. Let's say that you're going to help support you when you want to go back to your old life, your old self. But when you're reading a book, maybe sometimes that's not enough.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not enough to keep you like going, moving forward, because you'll always get discouraged and you'll like, oh, whatever, you know, I don't mind living the way I used to live. And this is for everybody, even people that have done the inner work. There will be situations and difficulties and obstacles in life that test you, right?
Yes.
And like, and then you're gonna like, you know, do you want to go back to your old self, or do you want to move forward and take the hard path? And one of my mentors said, the path to heaven is through hell. I love this. It's so true. It's so true. Like the difficult path is always a way to go. Yeah, you want to live extraordinary. Never take the easy path. The easy path, the safe path, never leads to something you really truly want.
Yeah.
And I've done that.
Of course. And Nida, you already mentioned, what are the channels that people can use in order to develop themselves? And then I asked you, and you already answered why people, they really don't go for self-development. My next question is, what do you think, especially after this pandemic? Let's say after, we're still in the pandemic. Although some countries, they already announced that it's already endemic, but I don't think that we're really in that stage now that we can say that it's already after the pandemic. What do you think people should focus on developing themselves in order for them to be more ready with all these changes that is happening? You see online meetings. So what kind of skills do you think people will need more, especially during this time?
Wow, there's so many. It's probably not a skill, but mental toughness, I think, is something that is really important. Yeah, I think like I see kids nowadays that have such high levels of IQ, like much higher than the previous generations, right? And it's because of the environments, the things that they learn, and all the technology and games that they play, right? They have really high EQ. But something definitely that is not in the curriculum, not in the education system, as much as I would want to see is this knowledge about, developing your mindset, your mental toughness, your EQ, your emotional intelligence. Like, yeah, I think psychology and all these things about mindfulness and emotional intelligence and all these things that we learn in the personal development space is something that people need to learn to develop. And I can't mention just one especially of what is the most important thing, because I think they're all important, but I think it starts with self-awareness. Like, in order for you to develop anything, it starts with self-awareness. And it's actually like, if you're looking for a partner for your relationship, the number one thing, people say that they think they need other things, like, oh, he has to be a gentleman, or he has to be intelligent, he has to be tall, or whatever, right?
They have all these checklists,
Yeah,
tick, tick, tick. This is my checklist.
Yeah. But the most important thing is self-awareness that you should be looking for in a potential partner and in actually every relationship. Because if you don't have the self-awareness, how are you going to evolve? How are you going to change? How are you going to develop? How are you going to transform? And yeah, I think everybody should work towards having self-awareness about themselves. And that requires courage. Requires,
of course,
being vulnerable, right? It requires you going out to other people and asking for feedback. And the truth hurts. But yeah, the path to heaven is through hell.
And you mentioned about mental toughness, and I couldn't agree more, because as they said, the next pandemic, it's going to be more on mental health.
Yeah.
Especially after pandemic. So I couldn't agree more on that. And do you have any suggestions or recommendations in order for people to become mentally tough, that they are emotionally intelligent and more ready and prepared for, we don't know what's next after this unprecedented situation that we actually dealing until now, which is the pandemic. So any suggestions, you as a coach, that you can say to people that with this, or you do this, you continue to do this, then you will be mentally tough?
Yeah, well, there are different parts of like having mental toughness, right? There's like having goals, being clear on your goals, and believing that you can achieve those goals, and working, like actually coming up with a goal that is challenging for you. Challenging but doable. Like, you have to believe it. Like, I see lots of people go to seminars, and you know how they draw those vision boards, and they either draw something that's like something they already know they're going to achieve. They're playing it safe, right? And then there's this other group of people that draw something spectacular, like, oh, out of this world, right? But they never do it. You know what I mean? Like, the moment they walk out of the room, they know it in their brains that they're not going to do it. They just drew that picture to present to the room. So I would say set a goal, draw a vision board. It's really great because all the vision boards that I have drawn have all come true. But when you actually draw it, you want to draw something that you know you're going to actually commit to. Don't just draw something like amazing to look
amazing
good
for people to
presentation.
It's like, wow.
Yeah, but you're like, if you're never going to do it, there's no use in doing that, right? So you want to set goals that like really mean something to you, that is like meaningful and is important for you. Like, that's why you have to have this strong why, like this why do you want to do that? Why is it so important that you have to make that happen before you die, like before you leave this earth? And that itself requires introspection, right? That itself, that question isn't something you can answer in like 2 minutes. So like, yeah, set those challenging goals and have a vision and work towards it. Like, people think that shifting your mindset or setting a goal makes it like you're done, you're finished, you've transformed yourself, which is not true. It's like those baby steps, consistently having the discipline to do these things on a daily basis that will get you where you are, like where you want to be, right?
That's right. And
It's
just like what
like
you mentioned, goals without action becomes dreams.
Yeah, it's not like there's
Wishes.
perception that people have, like, oh, if I hire a coach or if I just do that course, if I attend that seminar, my life is going to change like overnight.
Without doing anything, without
Yeah.
lifting any fingers at all.
Yeah, there's like no such thing. There's no shortcut. Like there is no shortcut, right? There is a smarter way to do things like hiring a coach, but like there's no shortcut. There's no like magic formula. Like I have lots of clients that come in and like they say like, I wouldn't really say clients, people that approach me like, hey, should I hire a coach? Maybe I should hire you. But then what they think is like, they think I have this magic wand that's going to help them transform.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, sorry, you're going to be doing all the work.
Yeah, that's right. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to support you, to cheer you and help you, but you have to do the work.
Yeah. So like, there's no shortcut. Like if you really want to live an amazing life, like an extraordinary life, you're going to have to be willing to do extraordinary things, like the harder things. That's why most people live a mediocre life, because I don't mean this in a judgmental way at all, but like humans are programmed that way through society, right? When we were growing up, what did the teachers tell us? Did they tell us to go be the next Elon Musk? Of course not, because they had their own limiting beliefs as well. They were programmed by the society as well. So what are they going to tell the students, right? They're like, stay safe, choose the secure path, right? Like
stay where you are in that box.
Stay in the box. Yeah, go get the degree, go be a doctor, whatever, right? So it's like, it's not their fault because they were programmed that way too. And our parents were programmed, and our parents were programmed through society in the way they were parented as well. But if like, I think our role is to really introspect, and like, if the career that you're in or the work that you're doing or the business that you're in, if you're happy, like you're totally happy, wake up every morning wanting to do it, great. That's for you, right? But if your answer is like, no, I feel like, even though I like what I do, I don't feel it's challenging anymore, or there's some sort of intuition that you feel like this is not it for me anymore, then it's your responsibility to take control of your life and to accept that, hey, maybe there's a harder path, there's a more challenging path waiting for me. This is like not what I'm meant to be doing anymore, So it's like, it's really about taking your life into your own hands and accepting the truth. But I think like having the self-awareness and accepting the truth is the most important thing. And actually, what I had this idea come up when you were asking that previous question about like, why do you think like people don't change? The other main reason is because people don't know that it's possible. They didn't know. And it's because of the programming through generations and generations of
and just like what you mentioned, the limiting beliefs that they have.
And it was the same for me as well. 20 years ago, I didn't know all this. Like, I wish my parents told me. They don't even know, and today they don't even know, right? And so like my approach to parenting my son is like totally different, because like it's totally coming from a different mindset. It's like, you can have whatever you want if you're willing to work and do it. Like if you have
to commit yourself in doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and he's the one. The funny thing is like, he's only like 12, 13, right? And I think the time he told me he was like 10 years old, he was still in a normal school. And he goes to an international school here in Thailand. So it's like one of the top schools in Thailand already. And he's like, Mom, but I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I think this is too hard. Like he's already having that programming from school. Like I didn't teach him these things, right? He got this from his school, from the kids in class and from the teachers. And I'm like, no, honey, that's not true. Like,
everything is possible.
Yeah.
You are possible.
Like, and I'm like, who taught you that? It's like, I don't know, like the kids at school, like, and it's like, yeah, you're always going to be exposed to the belief of the majority, like whatever environment you're in, you're always going to be exposed to it. But that mindset won't really get you where you really want to be, like, so I have to constantly kind of like counter program what he learned from school,
from outside, the influence of the environment.
And all the stuff that he watches on like YouTube, you know what I mean? Like kids these days, they consume so much, and the message that's going through those channels, and like it's not always positive, right? So I don't try to stop him from learning those things on the internet, because it's like part of life. It's part of the world. I don't want him to be naive. I want him to see like there is black and white and gray, right? Because I grew up with very overprotective parents. I grew up in unicorn land, and I felt like I had to learn things the hard way when I was like in my 20s, oh, I didn't know that the world had so many types of people. Like I thought, and I had to learn the hard way. So for my own son, I'm like raising him in the opposite way. It's kind of like, yeah, I want you to see the truth of everything in this world. And there's like no topic that we can't talk about. So we're really close. Like we really have the
very open communication.
Yeah.
Which is very important. And I'm very happy to hear that you're actually doing it to your son, because a lot of parents out there, well, I'm not saying it's wrong. I don't want to, I'm not saying that in a judgmental way, but
Yeah.
you just have, as a parent, you have to be open.
Yeah.
Because whatever happens, Netflix is there. You cannot just say, ask them to stop watching from Netflix. Netflix is there. Video games are there. So what are you going to do with that? Discuss it openly with them.
Yeah.
Because we cannot deny it.
You can't protect your kids from the truth in the world, right? And if you go against them, they're not going to be on the same team as you. When they have problems, they're not going to come to you. You're going to be the last person
to know.
Yeah.
So it's better that they learn it from you as a parent.
Yeah. So having trust, building that trust with your child is super important. And you don't do it by judging them, and you don't do it by being on the opposite side of them. So yeah, be on the same team. I think it's the same rule with every relationship, right? Be on the same team. You don't have to agree with them, but you still have to be on the same team as them. Yeah.
And of course, it's very important that you have that kind of communication wherein there is trust, and at the same time, we can talk about any topics.
Yeah.
It's very important. It's very important.
Yeah.
So Nida, we already talked about the channels. You explain and you give suggestions, especially on coaching, on this personal development, that people, they have this kind of fear, or they don't want to be in a very uncomfortable place. That's why they don't want to develop themselves. So one last piece of advice for them, that in order for them, of course, we're talking about personal development, but whatever happens, personal development and professional development, somehow it's intertwined. Whatever you do personally, it will affect something in your profession, and vice versa. Whatever you do professionally will impact your personal. So how about professional development? What can you say about that? What they should do in order to complement each other, personal and professional development?
Well, I think it's kind of the same thing, because like when I'm coaching CEOs and executives in companies, like a lot of people think we're talking about like leadership skills,
okay,
and, like, how to communicate and things like that. But the truth is, a lot of the times we're talking about something much more deeper. At least that's my approach. A lot of people say like it's about the mindset, but for me, it's like about the identity. It's like the way you show up every day is because you have a certain identity, a certain self-perception about yourself. Like, do you perceive yourself as somebody that's competent or not competent, confidence or not confidence, low self-esteem or high self-esteem? Do you perceive yourself as a loving partner, or do you perceive yourself as like not such a good partner? Are you an amazing parent, or are you just like, yeah, I'm trying to get by kind of parent? Right? So it's like the identity, how you perceive yourself. And like the most important question is in the coaching space, which is the jargon type of question, right? Like, who do you want to be? Yes. Like, who do you want to be? That's like the most important question, because that like then we work on the gap. Like if we know who you are today and who you want to be in the future, there's a gap, big or small, then we're going to work on that gap to fill that gap. Yeah. So I think professionally or personally, it's the same thing. Like you're just finding that gap, because once you become who you want to be, the hard skills are not difficult to acquire. Like it will be automatic. Like if you believe you're going to be like the next Elon Musk, you're going to go and learn all those things, right? You're going to go and do all those things because like you have that identity. Like you perceive yourself as someone that's confident and competent and making an impact, and like you're great, you're amazing. And then all the other things like your behavior, your competence, your skills, your capabilities, your environment, the people you hang out with, your ecosystem, all those things will follow if you but it's like you work on all those levels at the same time, and you're like shifting all of them at the same time. So like a misperception in the personal development space, like, oh, you just need to change your behavior. Or some people say you just need to change your mindset. But that's not true. You actually have to change all the levels. Like people can go and search this on the internet. It's called logical levels. It's like we teach that in NLP. It's like at the highest level is your identity, like a triangle. Imagine a triangle. At the top of, like, outside of the triangle is like vision, right? You have to have a vision for yourself. And then the triangle, the highest level is identity. And then below that is beliefs and values. And below that is capabilities. And then below that is behavior. And then below that is the ecosystem or your environment. So they all have to be aligned.
Yeah,
For
you cannot
example,
have only one, but the others are not.
Yeah. For example, maybe you have the behavior of like being this thought leader, this like writing books and like, doing all these amazing things and training people, but then you hang out with people that gossip about other people, for example, right? That's like the ecosystem, the environment doesn't match your behavior.
Misaligned.
Yeah. So that's just an example. So you can't have something in that triangle that's misaligned. Like all 5 levels have to move towards being the person that you want to be in the future. And that doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it takes years and years and years, right? And then you always have a next version for yourself that you want to be. Like there's always going to be a like Arnie 1.0, Arnie 2.0, like Nida 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, whatever, right? You're always going to have to want to evolve. And then there are lots of people say, but I'm satisfied with where I am. So I would say, like, if you're saying that you're satisfied with where you are, you're basically saying you have no room to go. Like there's no room to grow. You can't be better than who you are today, which is like, of course, when people hear that, that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, and they're limiting the possibilities and potentials that they have.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not either or, it's like an and. Like, correct. Yes, you can be satisfied. Yes, you're supposed to be satisfied with what you have today and have gratitude and be happy. And then be ambitious as well. It's not one or the other. It's like, I don't know, people have this misunderstanding that it has to be one or the other. It's not true. Yeah. So I think, like, it's so important for us to challenge our beliefs and our thoughts, like what we think on a daily basis, right? And I don't want to get into even manifestation and all those things. It all starts.
We'll need another episode for that.
Yeah.
You've shared a lot about personal development, and now I have these 3 standard questions that I ask my guests, Nida. Mm-hmm. Let me ask the first one. I always ask my guests, what's the greatest lesson you've learned in life?
Oh, so many.
Then share only the one that you think that can be helpful to my life mates.
We should have like a 5-hour podcast to answer all the questions.
That's what I'm thinking too. We need really like more than an hour. So, but
yeah, I would
someone
say,
ask you with that. What would be
your
answer?
I have an answer. I have like the answer that I think is the best answer. I think it's like never settle for less. Yeah. When I look back at the things that I chose from in the past, like relationships, the wrong relationships, or like career or whatever, it was because I settled for less, like, than I actually wanted. It was always that, and when I made the choices that were aligned with who I wanted to be, what I really wanted to be doing, and something like all these things were because I didn't settle. Like I looked for the next version of like, yeah, this is who I want to be if I want to get this, if I want to be here and there, like how am I going to get there? Who do I have to be? So like if I got to go back like on a time machine and told my younger selves, like, don't settle. Like, don't settle for this relationship.
You deserve the best.
Yeah, don't even settle for the next relationship. Like, like, but I think when we were younger, for me, it was like the lack of life experience, and like I didn't have the awakening yet. And then I didn't have all this knowledge of like psychology and and understanding about self-esteem. And so like I had to go through the whole journey. I think that's the most important learning for me, is like to not settle, like to always constantly talk to yourself, and like, is this really what you want? Is it really, 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 really what you want? Because like when we're coaching, right? You know, this as a coach, is like when you're talking to someone, they say, this is what I want, but like their emotions don't match. They're
And
like,
you ask them again,
I
are you
want
sure?
this, want this, and want that. I want this. There's like no passion in their body language. And like, I don't think that's what you want, you know?
Yeah.
And then when we look back at our past, it's like, yeah, I didn't want that either in the past, but why the heck did I choose that, you know? Yeah. It's
Okay,
about
can
like,
you share one decision that you made in the past
yeah,
and has an impact of who you are now as a person?
yeah. There's just no one decision. It's so many decisions.
Yes, of course. Every day we make decisions.
Yeah.
Either select one that you think has the biggest impact of who Nida is now.
Yeah. Definitely getting into coaching,
There you go.
becoming a coach.
When did you make that decision, Nida?
It was like, it was a long time ago. I was watching, you know, because I'm a psychology nerd. So I follow all these channels that talk about psychology and personal development. There was this guy that one day I was listening to his videos, and he said that I'm a life coach. So I'm like, I never heard of this term before. Like, what's a life coach, right? So I immediately went and Googled it. And then when I read the definition, I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
This is what I like. This is what I want.
This is what I'm born for. Like, because at that time, I almost went back. Like, I had the thought of going back to do like another degree in psychology. But then I couldn't imagine myself working in a hospital or working with patients, right? I just don't have that energy. I'm not that patient. I'm not, you know what I mean? But I just didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't even know what a coach, like a coach actually exists. I didn't know about this profession. And then when I heard that, I was like, this sounds like something I'm supposed to be doing, right? So I Googled it, and then like immediately I went and did like all the certifications, like the whole thing. And today I have I'm certified as a master certified coach with the ICF, which is like, it's like a big milestone, right? I got it last year. It's like the highest credential level in coaching.
Congratulations.
But the funny thing is, like, I saw that, I envisioned that from day one. Like when I knew that there was this like level of coaching, like I thought to myself, like, I'm gonna get there. You know what I mean? It's like, if it really means that much to you and you really want to do it, like you're going to get there, like however long it takes. Right. And for me, yeah, it was that decision, despite I was in a different business, and like my mom would say like, oh, are you sure you want to try this? Like, are you sure? I don't think you should get into this. What is it? Like, she didn't even know what it was. Right. Like people didn't know what coaching was like a long time ago. And I was like, like listen to yourself, like your intuition, really be honest with yourself. And that takes courage, right? It takes courage to really be honest with yourself. And just have, you know, take that leap of faith. And that was what I did. So I think that was the most important decision that made me who I am today. Because without coaching, I would never have been who I am today. Definitely. Wow. And I think my son would never be who he is today if I didn't become a coach as well. Like I'm a pretty good parent, I would say, even prior to coaching. But like my other business that I ran before this was like a child development center. So I was already into psychology and child development, right? And I read a ton of psychology books and parenting books and all that. But coaching like took my parenting to a totally different level. And that is not because I like intentionally went and parented in a different way, but because I evolved, like I transformed myself.
You yourself.
Yeah.
Transform into someone else.
That. Yeah. And he saw that. And he kind of like absorbed that kind of energy and mindset. And like kids, they do what they see you do. Like they become who they see you become. They don't do what you tell them to do. Because if you tell them to do one thing, like a lot of parents say, like, follow your dreams, you know, work hard and fulfill your potential. But if the parents don't do that, that's what the kids are going to see. And they're not going to really respect you because, like, you're telling me to do this, but you never did this, right? You know
That's
what I mean?
right.
Like, you're telling me to follow my dream and think big, but you never did that.
You
And so,
yourself, you're not
yeah,
following your dreams.
yeah. So subconsciously, the child will not believe that it's possible because the parent is showing them that it's not possible. So it's super important to be aligned with what you say and what you do and how you show up in the world. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
Whatever you say, if they don't see it, then it will never happen. They won't believe you. You already wrote 3 books, Nida.
Yeah.
But if you're going to write a book about your life, what kind of book will it be and what will be the title?
Oh, I would say it would be a personal development book for sure. Maybe a little bit spiritual, philosophical. What would it be about? I don't know. It would be about, I talk about myself, like my life and my experiences pretty much a lot in my books already. So I'm trying to think about like, what kind of book would it be if it was just talking about my life?
That's right.
Yeah, it would probably be about epiphanies and decision making. Because I think when you ask that question about like what decision, like I already mentioned my number one decision, right? But apart from that, other decisions that are also made an impact on my life was definitely like leaving the relationships that were not the right relationships, even though it was hard. But with courage, like I left it, right? Because I knew who I wanted to be. And I skipped a little part. So when I found out about coaching, I wasn't really in a wrong relationship. And so many years, like despite what people told me, like get out, it's the wrong relationship, you don't deserve this, whatever, right? Because we have that ego. I listen, but the ego is like defending itself, right? It's like, oh, it's not true. Oh, then it comes up with so many excuses for us to stay in that relationship, right? But then one day I was listening to Tony Robbins' video, one of his videos on YouTube, and he asked a question. And he said, the decision, or I don't remember the exact wordings, but it was something along the lines of what the thing that you're choosing for yourself today, is it aligned with who you want to be in the future? Like, or is it aligned with the vision you see for yourself? And just that question, like, no, no, the relationship I'm choosing for myself now is not aligned with who I want to be in the future, for sure.
So that question.
Yeah, it was an awakening moment. Just that question. And that was like, I still get goosebumps from talking about this. Like, it, like so many people told you, and it like took years and years of like trying to get out of that relationship, but nothing could get me out. But that question could.
That was the moment of truth.
Yeah. And that's why I so believe in the power of coaching. That was a coaching question, right?
That's right.
You didn't even tell me what to do. You didn't give me any mentoring or information or like what you should do with your life. You just asked that question. And like, yeah, that question's like, if you answer it truthfully, like really, it was a life-changing moment for me. And I think like if we all ask that question to ourselves, it will change like the trajectory of our lives. And so for me, if I wrote the next book, it was about my life. It would be about like epiphanies and life-changing moments and key decision moments, like those big key decision moments that really shifted the trajectory of your life. Yeah.
And the title of the book?
I don't know. Maybe it should be about like, I don't know, like epiphanies or like, I don't know, awakening or manifesting something. I don't know. I'm not really great at coming up with book titles. I actually come up with a book title actually after I finished writing the book.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because when I start writing a book, I don't know where it's gonna go.
So
Like,
you just keep on writing and writing,
yeah,
and then at
yeah,
the
yeah,
end, that's the time that, oh,
yeah,
this will be the
yeah,
title of the book.
yeah. Oftentimes, like I start off with like chapters, like, okay, I'm gonna write about these 12 chapters. I have a kind of outline of what the chapters are gonna be. Never ends up finishing like that. It always turns into something else. Like by the time I finish writing it, I'm like, oh, I don't want this. I want this instead. Oh, I forgot to write about this. I'm gonna share about this. And then the funny thing is, when I'm actually writing the book, I also transform. Like I also shift as well. Like I become a different person as well, like in a good way. And I learn through that process of reflecting and writing and sharing as well. And this is an experience I had with all of my books. It's like after I finish writing the book, sometimes I go back and I read and like, oh, this is too basic. Maybe I shouldn't write this. It's too basic because what? But after I finish writing it, I've kind of like I'm at a different level than when I started writing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But then I
I
have to,
can totally relate with that because I
yeah,
also wrote one book about public
yeah,
speaking,
yeah,
and I finished almost the whole book, Nida. And then
yeah.
a day, there's one day I said, no, this is not the content. And I totally deleted everything and started writing again and finished it in a week
Wow. Yeah.
after writing for months.
Yeah. It's like the work in progress. And it's like when you actually get there, it's like easy, right? Then it's all, everything is like compiled. But for me, it's like kind of a little bit different. It's like when I go back and then I have to think, well, no, the readers are still at their same level. So they need to hear this, even though I think it's like basic now.
Yeah.
But like they still have to go through this. And so I'm like, okay, don't judge your own work and like keep going, right? Just publish it. Yeah, but it's a really awakening journey as well, writing a book. It's like you get to reflect and learn and share, and you grow through the process of writing it as well. And yeah, I don't know where each book will end up, so I always name it after I finish it.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Nida, for
pleasure to
your
be here.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah, for your insights, everything that you've shared in this episode. And I'm sure my life mates are going to learn a lot from this episode. So, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And to all my life mates, if you like this episode, please share with your families and friends because I believe that each episode is worth listening because you learn something. Because each one of us, we have stories to tell. And Nida shared something that is very helpful for everyone because we have to continue developing ourselves. So, life mates, listen and learn.